If I asked you to think of the best player you know, a tall player might pop into your mind from the one that you've seen on TV, or it might be someone that you play with regularly down at your local club or in your local golfing society, but that's the golfer that pops into your mind, and we can all learn from those. Everybody, I'm Matt Fryer, PGA golf professional, and in today's lesson I'm going to pick out 5 things these best golfers do, and regardless of our skill level, we can all learn from them and implement them into our game. So let's take a look at number 1 right now. So, point number 1, something that we can all do. The best golfers that you know, when they come to the golf course, they try and keep it as simple as possible. They don't have too many thoughts in their mind. They generally have one swing thought or one idea of what they're going to try and do throughout the game. They're not thinking about different parts of the golf swing. They're not thinking about what score they want to try and get on the 14th hole, the 18th hole. They generally will have one objective that they set before they tee off, or that they've worked on with a coach in their lessons or developed themselves on the range, and they will try and stick to that plan. They will keep it as simple as possible, because for a lot of golfers that I know, generally sometimes when they're out on the golf course, they're changing the swing thoughts every hole because their friend tells them that they lifted the head, they didn't cock the wrists early enough, you're slicing, you're aiming right, loads of different things going on in the mind, and they just start following everyone's advice. Every little bit they hear, they take it in, try and work on it on the next hole, and they've got no control of what's going on. So tip number 1, the best golfers keep it simple. Have one swing thought and stick to that swing thought the whole round. For me, I work on trying to cock my wrists a little bit earlier in my backswing to help me get a little bit more speed and get the club where I want to. And that's tip number 1. Let's go and find out what tip number 2 is. Okay, so tip number 2 that all good golfers do. When they get to the hole that they're playing or the shot that they're going to be faced with, you'll generally see them that they take the same amount of time. They have a routine, they have the same amount of waggles each time. They go through a way of finding the distance, and each shot, it almost just becomes a methodical process to make sure that they're going to be performing at their optimum. So I've just zapped it before we came on here. It's 148. So for me, my routine would be to have one practice swing, thinking about the technique and the shot I want to try and here with where the flag is located. It's on the right hand side of the green, so I need to hit a little fade in, a little left to right shot for me, that's starting over the middle of the bunker and then working back about 5 yards to the right towards the flag. So I would come behind, I would select a target out in the distance. The tree that's right behind in fact the fence post that's right behind the green for me is a little bit of a smaller target, so it really makes me focus in. Then I'm going to have one practice swing, thinking about the swing I want to make when I go through it. I'll come behind, I'll pick my target and my intermediate target here, I'll line the club up, and for myself I have a little cock of the wrists, one look at the fence post, settle in, one last look at that fence post, and then I pull the trigger and hit a pretty decent shot there. Just a little bit too much fade, but safely aboard the green. So tip number 2, make sure you're going through a routine. It might get you might have to work on it down at the driving range, but if you watch anyone who's any good, you will see that they stick to the same routine. This applies especially when we're getting into a pressured situation. If you've built a really good score up and you're coming down the stretch, you don't want to be stood over the ball for too long thinking about what could go wrong. You want to get that positive image in your mind, pick the shot you want to hit, and then move on from there, pull the trigger and hopefully execute it. So that's tip number 2, guys. Okay, so tip number 3 that all good players do. When they get to wherever they've hit their ball, or wherever they're taking their tee shot from on a par 3, par 4, whatever it may be, they know the distances. So for myself, I've now got 155 yards to the flag, but the wind's directly into me. So I know that my 8-iron goes 155 on the fly. I know that the wind's into me. I know that it's cold today. I know that the ball's not going to be travelling as far. So I've made a calculated decision to what club I need to hit on this shot. So instead of just thinking, oh, 155 is the number, I'm going to hit my 8-iron because that goes 155. The best players you know make very informed decisions regarding their clubs, and what you'll notice, especially from the players you see on the TV, they're always there or thereabouts with the distance. They don't hit one and they think it's a great looking shot, and all of a sudden it's pulling up 10 yards short of the green, or it's flying 30 yards over the back. They're always very close to the number that they want to try and hit it. So even if we are a beginner or a weekend player or a social player, what we can try and do is get a benchmark maybe with 3 clubs, a 5, 7 and a 9-iron, to see how far we hit those, and then start to see that we're going to be hitting them roughly the right distances. It'll be good. And just about pin high. Okay, so tip number 4 that we see the best players do. I'm 15 holes into my round now. It's going pretty nicely. I'm level par. What you won't see the best players do is start to plan out the scores on the rest of the holes remaining on the course, because what I tend to find from a lot of beginners, higher handicappers, sort of weekend golfers, is that they get into a good position, they're coming down the closing stretch, and all of a sudden they're trying to plan out what happens. Now, you don't own this score yet. I'm level par after 15, but the job isn't completed. I've still got 3 or 4 holes of golf left to play. A lot could happen here. So what you've got to try and do is focus on the next shot in hand. Try and stay in the present moment. It's easy to say, but we've got to focus on what the next shot is every single time, because from here I might plan to make a birdie on this par 5, par the next, which is a par 3, birdie the par 5 17th, and then par the 18th, which leaves me at 2 under. But what if I birdied this a hole in one on 16, I made a par on 17 and I holed out for 2 on 18? That's not gone to plan. It would be a bit of a shock. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably get a little bit jittery because it's going better than I thought. I might make bogey here, bogey the next, and finish birdie. So when you're out on the golf course and when you get into those later stages and you're adding your scores up and you're putting your scores in the box, try to stay away from adding it up and planning your finishing score. Stay in the present moment and try and get the job done of what you're facing next. Okay, so the final tip number 5, and these are just the 5 that I selected that I think can help everyone improve their game. If we are playing with good players and we're watching good players, there might be loads of other things that you think that a good player does that you really want to take into your game. The thing is to actually watch them and learn from them, implement the things that you think, oh, I watched Mike the other day, who I always play with, who's a 5 handicap golfer. He does this, might be always plays with the same ball, he's always got clean clubs. Try and be like Mike, see if you can do the things that he does. But one of the things that I always talk to about with my lessons is, if I got you to think of Tiger Woods hitting a shot in on the 18th hole of the Masters last year when he was hitting driver, or when he was hitting the 16th tee shot. In fact, that's probably a better example. When he hit the 16th tee shot and it nearly went him. When he hit that shot, he wasn't falling all over the place, and when they try and knock one out, and even a greater example is Rory when he's knocking driver 320 through the air sometimes, they always look in massive control of what they're doing. The swing looks rhythmical, it looks balanced, and they look like they're in charge of the golf club. They're in charge of their own golf swing. So tip number 5, and what I want everyone to try and do, even if you're going back to tip 1 and we think of that one simple swing thought that we want to have, what about balance? What about rhythm? Let's see that we can make a balanced rhythmical golf swing and hold that finish, because I've never watched a good player hit a drive or hit an iron shot and they've not finished and been able to hold it and watch it down, give it a club twirl, and it looks great. They're never falling after the golf ball, they're always in really good balance. So fifth and final tip, let's see that we can make a consistent swing by being really in control of our own golf swings. And that is straight down the middle. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's lesson, guys. Do remember 5 things that all the best golfers do. Pick a couple of those, pick 5 of them, try and implement them into your game. Comment down below as well, is there anything that you think that I left off that the best golfers do? Also remember, do hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss any future golf lessons to help you improve your golf here on the channel with me, Matt Fryer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another lesson. I'm going to go and copy some of the best golfers now.